This is Capital Ideas TV. Coming up, a live demo from Siyata Mobile CEO on the company's new flagship product. The head of Ceylon Graphite, a unique opportunity in Sri Lanka. And the CEO of Imagin Medical, an innovative, efficient way to detect bladder cancer. In one of our first episodes of Capital Ideas TV, we interviewed the CEO of Siyata Mobile. The company develops push-to-talk communications devices such as tablets and phones, but with a twist. These products use cellular networks instead of land-based radio signals and have many of the same capabilities as cell phones. Think of them like two-way radios meshed with smartphones. With just a single push of a button, users can make phone calls to as many as 250 people on a network, navigate with GPS, and run applications. These devices are a big hit with first responders, dispatchers, and truckers, professionals who are always on the move and need simple communication at their fingertips. Siyata has dialed in on that customer base with its host of in-vehicle commercial products. In doing so, it's secured first-mover advantage in this segment and rapid sales, too. The company expects to earn $20 million in revenue this fiscal year and $30 million in 2018. Driving those lofty estimates is organic sales growth of more than 50%, plus an eye on strategic acquisitions when opportunities present themselves. Siyata Mobile has been busy since we last talked to them. The company has launched a slew of new 4G LTE devices and inked deals with several new customers. CEO Marc Seelenfreund is with us now. He brought some props, including a live demo, the first ever, of their new flagship product. Mark, last time you were here, you talked about your company, Siyata Mobile, developing a next-generation technology for commercial vehicles that will basically put the old-style two-way radio out of business, put it to bed. So update us on what's happening.
So the device is already developed, it's working, and we have it here on the table for the first time. We're going to be able to show viewers how this device actually works. And if you remember, we discussed removing the clutter. That was one of the issues that we had discussed in the last interview. We are basically replacing $6,000 to $10,000 worth of outdated equipment that you currently have in commercial vehicles. And I brought some of these devices to show you on the show. You have here a two-way radio. So this is a Motorola two-way radio system that many commercial vehicles across North America are still using. You have what's called a PND, or a navigation system that trucks are still using. You have what is called a black box over here, which is used for GPS and for tracking and for fleet management systems. You have a DVR, that is for taking pictures outside of the truck. And you have a rugged tablet, which you can also see in many commercial vehicles. Really what we're doing is taking all of this equipment, shrinking it, removing the clutter, and making one device that can do everything for less than $1,000 installed, and that's this device over here.
So 6-in-1 with your device compared to all this clutter, which also you say that carriers, wireless carriers with whom you're talking in Canada and the US, they make no money off this. With yours, they make some money.
100%. This is basically a tool for cellular operators to be able to get a SIM card into a commercial vehicle. So let me give you an example. A cellular operator could have a construction company with 1,000 employees, and all those employees are working around with Samsung devices with a Bell or a Telus SIM card inside. When the commercial vehicle driver gets into that truck, he's now looking at all of this equipment, and none of this is going to the cellular operator. This is going to third-party companies, right? With various installation packages, various devices, various cellular packages, and voice protocols. We're saying that the cellular operator can now have one device that will allow him to get into those millions of commercial vehicles across North America that he's not capturing right now. And we think that that's very attractive for the cellular operators.
So what's the reaction from the cellular operators and from fleet owners in terms of what they think the potential is for cost savings?
So the cost savings is tremendous, both on the CapEx and on the OpEx. The cellular operators are now going to have an opportunity to get into millions of commercial vehicles that they're not in right now. And therefore, we're in trials both with a leading Canadian operator and with a leading US operator. We expect to launch with both of them in the first half of next year. We believe that we'll first launch with the Canadian operator. We'll hopefully get approval in the first quarter and launch in the second quarter. With the US operator, we're looking to get approval in the second quarter and launch in the third quarter. But all of the operators that we've discussed this with are very excited to have this opportunity to get revenue from customers in their network that they're not generating revenue from right now.
And Mark, how big is this market?
There are over 13 million commercial vehicles in the United States and Canada, just the United States and Canada, and we sell not only in North America, but globally. just so you understand, we're going to be selling this for less than $1,000. So it's a multi-billion-dollar market, and we think that it's very unique what we're offering. Nobody else has anything like this, and we think that we will be a market leader in this category.
Let's get to your earnings. They came out recently and they look pretty solid. You're EBITDA positive, but the markets don't seem to be getting the story. The stock's been languishing a bit. Why do you think that is?
Well, we came out recently with our earnings. We did about $15 million in top line, and we're EBITDA positive. We did last year about $12.5 million for the whole year, so we're already way ahead. We expect to do north of 50% growth this year and be EBITDA positive for the year. We think that that's very dramatic. The fact is that a lot of money is shifting over now to Bitcoin deals, to cannabis deals, to blockchain deals, and we see some of that money probably moving out of our stock and into those other technologies. But we do believe that once investors realize the value that we're bringing in the large-scale markets that we're going after and the potential that we have on a global level to be able to sell our products, we think that'll be very attractive for investors.
All right, Mark, this is the exciting part. This is the first ever live demo of your new product. Let's see it in action.
First ever. So basically what this device does, it allows you to make regular phone calls, cellular phone calls, push to talk over cellular, which is like the next generation of two-way radio systems. It allows you to have data sessions and applications, so you can have navigation, fleet management, various applications that are relevant for commercial vehicles. So what I'm going to show you first is, if you see here, this is a fleet management package, and this is from a company called Big Road, and it's embedded in the product, and then you can have fleet management on the product. You can also open up Waze and have navigation. So here you see Waze. So basically you don't have to have an additional device for navigation. It's all in one device. Now we're going to make a phone call so you can hear the call quality, because at the end of the day, the most important feature in this product is the call quality and the fact that it has very good call quality and very good echo cancellation.
You're phoning a colleague here.
Yep.
Hi, it's Glenn.
Hey Glenn, how are you?
I'm well, Mark. Hope it's going well with you.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good day.
Very good.
Thanks.
So that was a regular standard mobile phone call. So you don't have to have an additional device to make a cellular phone call. Now I'm going to demonstrate to you what is called push to talk over cellular. Push to talk over cellular, as we mentioned, is a way to speak to multiple people at the same time simultaneously. So basically this allows a dispatch to speak to 10 trucks or 100 trucks simultaneously, as opposed to calling each one separately. So now we're going to go and call Glenn again, and basically what we're going to do is you're going to hear that beep similar to what it was in the mic network, if you remember. Glenn, can you hear me?
Hi, Mark. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. It sounds really good on my end.
So basically what you saw, it's not a cellular phone call, that is a data-based push to talk over cellular phone call. So it's all based on the data network, and it allows me to call 10 or 100 or 500 people simultaneously, which is what is needed for commercial vehicles, so you can speak to many vehicles at the same time.
Siyata Mobile is looking to make a splash in the United States, and it's getting some major help with its sales pitch. The U.S. government has asked AT&T to build a public safety broadband network over the next 5 years. Commercial fleets using two-way radios will need to migrate to the new network, and that may provide Siyata with a steady stream of customers. AT&T was awarded the contract in March. It aims to have an additional 20% of the U.S. market covered by its new network each year. Roughly 12 million commercial vehicles will need to upgrade to push-to-talk systems that operate on the band 14 spectrum that the new broadband network will use. As a result, Siyata estimates the U.S. market will be worth more than $7 billion, or about $600 per device. If Siyata can gain some traction early in the network rollout, it could find itself with a windfall of new business.
Well, Peak of the Beans is a lifestyle brand. I was fundamentally confused why there wasn't an apparel product that fostered a lifestyle of play for children. I want the world to look at the lifestyle of a child as something that needs to be preserved and protected. And we create an apparel product that makes them feel good. It allows them to get outside and become who they are. And that's what we want. We want to foster a playful life.
It may not look like much, but this hunk of carbon is key to some of the most in-demand products of the 21st century. It's graphite, and it's a major component of batteries in electric cars and mobile devices. It's also the source of graphene, the thinnest and strongest material known to man. It has applications in cutting-edge tech like energy storage and nanofibers. Graphite is a scarce resource, but Ceylon Graphite may have a bunch of it on its hands. The miner owns exclusive exploration licenses to what may be graphite-rich properties in Sri Lanka, which has been mining graphite off and on for hundreds of years. Historical drilling records hint at the potential for high-quality deposits. Now the company is getting down to digging. Ceylon is in the process of refurbishing some of its mine shafts in hopes of hitting a mother lode. CEO Bharat Parashar explains the company's recent activity and why he believes pay dirt may not be far off. Bharat, we hear a lot about the electric vehicle market, the energy storage market, and how big it's going to get the next 10, 20, 30 years. What's graphite's role in that? Because it may surprise some people.
Graphite today is the new oil. And if you look at how the world is evolving and moving away from hydrocarbons to alternative energy, the big issue with alternative energy is storage. And storage can only be done in today's world and environment through a battery or a similar utensil. And for a battery today, you need graphite. And if you look at batteries in a little more detail, people wonder, you know, it's a lithium-ion battery. What's graphite got to do with it? I thought that was the old Exide Union Carbide battery. And you say, no, even in the lithium battery today, 60% of your battery is your anode, and your anode is all graphite. So the name of the battery should actually be the grapho-lithium battery. But, you know, we purveyors of graphite say, forget it, it doesn't matter. We'll be under the radar there.
Now, you're in Sri Lanka, formerly known as Ceylon, so you've got vein graphite or Ceylon Graphite there. And the history is fascinating because they've been mining it off and on for hundreds of years, which a lot of people might not know. I didn't know going into this. So what makes vein graphite unique?
You have to take the graphite and process it. First, by micronizing it, and then by doing thermal purification to take it up to what we call the battery-grade graphite, which is in the colloquial system called 3,9 battery, which is 99.9% carbon. Now, Ceylon or Sri Lankan graphite goes only from 90%, whereas the rest of the world goes from 30 or 40 or 50%. That's one difference. The other thing about Ceylon graphite, in vein graphite, it's like literally a river flowing underground of graphite, but obviously solid. It's solidified over millions of years, and it's much easier to mine. So when it comes to the actual mining, we are the quickest to mining. Once we find the vein, we're out there.
Is that your main competitive advantage? Because there are a number of graphite mines in development around the world, as you know.
We focused our efforts on acquiring a land bank, and in Sri Lanka, the government, the GSMB, which is the Government Survey and Mining Bureau, gives you a grid of 1 square kilometer. So each of our grids, we've tried to have a previously producing graphite mine there. We take a grid, we find the shaft, and we go down into the shaft, eventually to hope to find the vein.
Right.
And a lot of our grids have visible graphite veins on surface. So now we can say, why don't we just sell this stuff? But it's not really that good, and you really want to see where it leads to the rock, and that's where we start and sink our mines. We have so far to date done one mine, or one grid, where we have developed the shaft, which is we've taken the shaft, we've cleared it, we've reinforced it with steel bars and put timber behind that, and we're going down to the bottom. So far we are at about 110 feet. This morning we were 110 feet, and I think, if my readings are correct, another 20 feet or so will be at the bottom. We've already seen the formation of the tunnel heads. So what people do is when they get down to the level, you then create a tunnel underneath that. So we hope to be in another few days being able to tell everybody whether we've got graphite or not. Now, as we've gone down, as you might have read or seen in some of our pictures online, you can start to see the veinlets. So that's a good indication of there is something down there. We are focused only on one thing. I want the vein to be minimum of 30 centimeters or 1 foot. If we have that, we'll start. Otherwise, we'll just close up and go somewhere else.
Take us out to full production. What's the timeline? And when you get there, where do you think prices will be, and what does revenue look like? And I know it's a long way out, but when do you become profitable? Hard to say at this point?
Let's put it this way. If everything goes as per plan, by the end of 2018, we could really be, if we just stick to selling graphite bricks, we could be making a lot of revenue. My pre-production plan, I think I promised the market, or I indicated to the market, that we would be in pre-production by the end of the year. I still think by January we should be in pre-production on one site. In terms of developing the other sites, so I'm looking at 3 sites concurrently in addition to K1. One already, they say, has the elephant-sized vein. The second site is full of water. So we are dewatering it. We've got a couple of electric pumps and hoses. We're going to dewater it. The third one is, and I'm sure you might have seen some of our news releases, where you have that huge vein on the surface. So I'm ready to start there. Now, everyone, we've bought a second drill rig. And our drill rigs, unlike most other sites, where you actually drill to find how much resource base you have, we are not actually going after creating a resource base 43-101 that you need in Canada, simply because we don't have one mega mine. We might, at the end of the day, have 115 mines or more. But each sort of mine will have its own graphite in it.
Okay, and last question for you. What is your value-added proposition? What do you plan to do? Because we were talking off-air about the big plan here.
We want to get into the value add, which is we want to get into the anode manufacture. Now, the anode manufacture could be for EV batteries or for storage batteries or whatever else, but we think that that's where the value is. So today's market price, and we all are in this to make money, today's market price for Sri Lankan graphite, or what a brick that I could bring out, would be around, let's say, $2,000. But on an equivalent basis, if I go into the anode manufacture, my ton would sell for $15,000. So there's a huge value add there. And the difference in our strategy is going to be, whilst we might do all the processing and purification ourselves, once we get to the anode manufacture, we're going to go into joint venture with some of the big boys who are already in this business. As you know, these mega, giga factories are coming up. And these guys are already talking to us all the time. So people like, you know, the 3 big ones are Panasonic, LG, and Foxconn. And 2 out of the 3 have already been in contact with me and my colleagues. And many others who want to be in this business are talking to us. And they're all after one thing. They want the graphite.
For many companies, we tell them that their data is like the Mona Lisa. It's incredibly valuable. Every large organization in the world right now has a 42% compounded annual growth in their data storage. And the old methods aren't going to work. LeoNova's technology was built under the following assumption. All your investment in network technology and security technology and hardware, we assume it all fails, and the bad guys are going to get access to your data. With LeoNova's, we're the last line of defense.
We have a tagline, and that's like the Desert Line Energy is the next producing lithium mine in the world. Not only at Desert Line Energy, we're ready to meet the demand of the lithium market today by coming into production now. We're also looking out into the future, and we see a bright opportunity for us to be a long-term producer producing lithium chemicals for the growing lithium market today and then into the future.
No matter what your background or where you live, chances are you know someone battling cancer. There are more than 200 different types of the disease, and one of the most common is bladder cancer. Early detection is crucial to treating bladder cancer, and Imagin Medical is working on a tool to radically improve the odds of doing so. The company is bringing a new twist to endoscopic imaging. That's the go-to tool in detecting bladder cancer. Endoscopes are those tiny cameras attached to long cables that are fed into a patient's body so that surgeons can take a look inside. Today, surgeons use white light endoscopes to hunt for bladder cancer. That's the image to the left. White light is generally effective for finding more obvious tumors, but surgeons often miss more concealed ones. Enter blue light, the image on the right. This technique involves adding a blue filter over the white light and using a special dye to stain tumors so they become more visible. The only problem is that dyeing agent is toxic, takes an hour to be visible, and can only be used once in a patient's lifetime. Imagin Medical's iBlue imaging system blends white and blue light together. As a result, its optics are 100 times more sensitive than traditional methods. What's more, it requires up to 90% less of that harmful dyeing agent and can detect cancer in just 15 minutes. That means surgeons can use iBlue multiple times per patient during checkups. CEO Jim Hutchens discusses the product's development roadmap. Jim, Imagin Medical has chosen bladder cancer to focus on. How big an addressable market is that?
Well, when we're talking about just bladder cancer, you're looking at the 6th most prevalent cancer in North America, the 3rd most prevalent for men. What's interesting is in the United States, there's more money spent on bladder cancer than there is on any other cancer. This is because there's in the neighborhood of a 40 to 60% reoccurrence rate. So after your first surgery, you're going to see your doctor 4 times the first year, and you have a 50% chance. It really is with you for the rest of your life that needs to be monitored, and therefore those costs just keep coming and coming. Very big, very significant market.
So you've got this iBlue system that you're developing. What's unique about it, and what kind of impact do you think it can have?
Well, I think you have to answer that question. You have to go back and take a look at what the market does today. So the market does 2 things today. First, they use an endoscope with white light. This is 90+% of the market. This technology is well over many decades old. Now, in the last number of years, a new technique, and that is using an endoscope with a blue filter and a fluorescent drug, has started to get some traction. Now, the problem with this technology, because the image is infinitely better, is you have to wait an hour, which makes it difficult in an OR setting in a hospital. And when you're looking at the cancer on the blue image, you can't operate on that image. So you have to go back to the white image where you're not seeing the cancer. You have to remember where it is. Now I can answer your question.
Right, so this is where iBlue comes in, which you think is a superior technology.
So what we do is an endoscope with our iBlue system. We remove a color camera off the end of the scope when you're using a fluorescent image. We take the image into the iBlue system. I won't go into big detail for you, but we filter it, we run it through mirrors, we take one image, the color image, the visible image, into a color camera. We have an additional camera where we have the invisible image going through a mirror. We grab it, we pull them we separate them, we run them through our software, and then through our intellectual property, which is called parallel acquisition. We blend them back, and in real time, you see the image on the monitor, and the cancer is in context. You don't have to switch between images. The message is that we are 100 times more sensitive than any product out there. We can see the cancer in less than 15 minutes, no switching back and forth, and the iBlue system probably adapts to well over 90% of the scopes that are on the market today. So it's a very exciting time for us, and let me just throw in, various societies, urologic societies around the world, are starting to call for their urology communities to start using fluorescent drugs.
And Jim, you're currently doing human studies. What's the significance of that, and have you gleaned any insights so far as to the efficacy, or is it too early to say?
Well, we had been working at the University of Rochester in Rochester, New York, and all of our bench testing indicates that we're going to be able to achieve our goal. But you have to move to a human clinical. And just recently, we've opened that study. That study's been approved at the University of Rochester. It is now open for patient recruitment. And I would think before the winter holiday, we're going to start to have patients done. You know, what's significant about that is it's a great story. We're very confident it works. But within the next 3 and 4 months, we're going to have a 10-patient subject study completed, and it'll put the company in a completely different position.
You have said in the past that you seem pretty confident, you are pretty confident of going through the U.S. regulatory system at a pretty steady pace. Initially, you said you'd be commercial by Q1 2018. Now it's 2019. So give us a sense of the timeline and the milestones that you're hoping to hit.
Our inventor moved from California to the University of Rochester, which was great for us. and we had to go through the system to get the product approved. And some of our dates were a little aggressive. What we did was reduce our burn rate, but right now, we're back in a really interesting position. So we want to get this data done at Rochester, and then we have 2 different milestones of working with the FDA next year. But first, we need to get the prototype data. We're not working in a linear fashion. We are actively redesigning the product for commercialization. We are tapping that into our FDA strategy. We're working with top lawyers to make this thing happen. And I think we're going to be onto the market late first quarter 2019 into the second quarter 2019.
All right, and lastly here, Jim, in your investor presentation, you talk about how medical device companies often grow through acquisition, and you're quite open about the fact that you have multiple opportunities and possible exit strategies. So what's the best question? Should I ask you about being commercial and your sales targets, or should I ask you about your exit strategy?
Well, they're joined. So I'll answer your question in both ways. In today's world where the distribution channels, if we went back just 15 years ago, a 28-person sales organization was large. But right now, if you're at an American urologic meeting, you're with companies that sell $500–600 million worth of products into this market segment of urology. They have 185 person sales forces. I believe that you have to build a real company. We're building a real company. We've got a management team in Boston that's done this before. We have a great group in Rochester helping us. On the way to building this real company, somebody with these large distribution channels might want to step forward and say, we really need that product in our salespeople's bag. So I'm not answering your question. That's how this game gets played today, but we're building a real company.
Imagin Medical is breaking into the market by focusing on bladder cancer, but the company has much wider plans for the future. It's hoping to eventually launch the iVision imaging system, which would be used for other endoscopic procedures. Take one look at just how massive the endoscopy market is, and you'll understand why. This forecast comes courtesy of Zion Market Research. It estimates the global market for endoscopy devices will be nearly $42 billion by 2021. The segment was worth $30 billion in 2015. Endoscopes require small surgical incisions to be inserted into a patient's body, making them a relatively quick and painless alternative to major surgery. Couple that with an aging population's rising demand for surgical procedures, and you have a recipe for a rapidly growing sector.
In 35 years, I've been involved in several successful mining startups, yet this is the best pre-production project I've ever been involved in. Our company has a current market cap of about $30 million. Our preliminary economic assessment shows that we have a net present value on the one project of $210 million, and I think that represents a real opportunity for investors to make some money. In mining, timing is everything, and we're in a zinc cycle right now, and we see that continuing for several years from now.
From the heart of the financial district in downtown Toronto, that's our show for this week. I'm Mark Bunting. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode. And for more great investment ideas through our weekly digest and morning note, subscribe to capitalideasresearch.com. Thanks a lot for watching, and thanks for investing like a pro. We'll see you next time.